I'm Sofia Kypraiou. I'm not a lawyer. I have a very technical background. I did my bachelor's in computer science in the University of Athens. And then I was working, and then I moved to Lausanne to do my master's in data science. And then through my work for my thesis, I got more involved into AI and a bit of more a critique on AI. And I worked with the NGO Women on the Table, along with lawyers from OHCHR, in order to create a human rights-based approach on AI. So we will see some examples of bias. What are the human rights principles? How we can combine human rights and AI? And I think we will skip the last part. So I'm going to do a quick tour from all the problems of the design in the digital world that come from the analog world. So here we see some statistics that female drivers are more likely to be killed in an accident and 50% more likely to be seriously injured compared to a male driver. And why is that? It's because of how the cars are made, how they're being modeled by, about who has designed them and who has made these choices. I think that it has been only since a few months ago that they have created an anatomically correct female crash dummy. So, and these numbers is even worse if, for example, if a woman is pregnant. So this raises the question of who designs it and for whom and what purpose they serve. And of course, these all transform into the algorithms. Here's an example of Amazon's recruitment algorithm. I think it's from 2018, where they were experimenting with a hire tool that was using AI to give candidates a score from 1 to 5. And what they found in the end was that the algorithm was picking up patterns, and in the end, it was punishing CVs that had the word women's, like women's college, or even women's chess champion. And do you have any idea why that was the case? To have also living experiences and demographics in the team. So here I see that we have quite diverse teams, which is very nice. But it's important that we don't need you don't have a team only from one discipline to design for all of these categories and all of the different peoples. And then on the more technical about dataset and processing. So who collected the data? What data are we using? Where are they from? Also questions about consent and privacy. What historical bias might be present in the data? We also saw before that if we're using data that we're collecting using these tools that were not as accurate for patients with darker skin, then already you have data of lesser quality. And then what data processing, how does the data processing impact the data set when we are doing the cleaning of the data set? Who are we excluding? Why are we excluding them? And should they be important? Should they be considered? Especially when you're dealing with humans. Then it comes to the selection and development of the model. So what assumptions you're making? We also discussed before about transparency. So can you understand and explain the algorithm and why it came to this decision? Also, what metrics have you been exploring? So one of them is the accuracy, which means how accurate it can predict your data sets and the data that you already have. This doesn't mean how it can predict data, but what happens about new data and what happens about fairness. So the fairness is becoming also a technical term and something to be optimized, but what does it mean in each case? We saw before in the Compass dataset that they were using different definitions of fairness to defend their use case. So what are you choosing and why are you choosing them? It's very important. And it should be a decision that it's being talked throughout the team and whoever is being involved in this process. and that is clearly understood. And what is the required human control and how it can be achieved. And then the testing outcome. So, okay, you created the model. Does it perform as you expect it to be? What happens when you put this model in the wild? Do you have mechanisms in order to go back and fix this algorithm? What are your auditing and maintenance purposes? What happens if things go wrong? What happens if you get new data? What happens if someone wants to remove their consent in the data set, in their consent of their data in the data set? And what happens to the model that you've